Welcome to the Same Day Podcast, where we discuss driving incremental business growth and other topics related to real estate, property management, and entrepreneurship. Now to the show at hand.
Matt Zalk here. I'm the host of the Same Day Podcast, where I connect with top business experts and real estate leaders. Past guests include Devin Howland, talking about economic development, Fayetteville, Arkansas. Jonathan Schmidt of the Keyrenter team, talking about property owners frequently asked questions. Kevin Evans of Liberty Air Services, talking about HVAC systems, how they work, and why they're so darn complicated. We get a lot of questions about HVAC, especially during summer when they're running 24/7. And so we have a podcast talking about some of the intricacies of those systems. Today's episode is brought to you by Chris Lyle State Farm. Chris Lyle State Farm helps protect your most precious assets and investments, whether it's your home and auto, investment rental properties, or other valuables. Call Chris Lyle State Farm for a quick and painless phone call to potentially save you double digits on all of your insurance needs. Visit HTTPS. Do we still need to say that? I think it's like www. I don't know anymore. Diallyle.com, DIALLILE.com, or call his office at 918-878-7771. Today's episode is also brought to you by Keyrenter Property Management. Keyrenter Property Management, we're a full-service property management company helping our clients buy, renovate, and operate real estate assets. We help our clients build wealth while taking the headache out of property management. Kyle, you know as well or better than anybody else how hard it is to line up contractors to get a make-ready done in a reasonable amount of time. And after a tenant leaves a property, the folks that swing a hammer, they're busy, and sometimes their work seems to drag on forever, and all that leads to lost rental income. At Keyrenter, we line up dedicated vendors so that turns can happen super quickly and we get more money back in the pockets of our owners. That's why no matter what rentals you have, single family homes, condos, townhomes, apartments, we have the management solutions you need. Go to KeyrenterPMC.com or any of our individual sites. That's Tulsa, Wichita, Oklahoma City, Arkansas for more details. Today's guest is Kyle Law. He's a man about town. He's a wholesaler, investor, renovation expert, and contractor, and he's a future mentor. He's doing some mentoring now, but he's going to scale that side of his business. We're going to hear more about that. He's born and raised in Oklahoma. He moved to Tulsa in 2007 and then back in 2017, which is when I met him, because I also moved to Tulsa in 2017. And he's done a whole bunch of stuff. Kyle, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Matt.
Tell me about some of the different things that you've worked on over the past 5 years. I knew you through the wholesaling world, and we've done so many great deals together and helped so many of our clients buy awesome properties. And honestly, I speak to our clients all the time. They're like, I wish we could buy more of those deals that we bought back in 17, 18, 19. And, at the time, and then I'll let you answer the question that I just asked you. So stand by 1 second. It's annoying, I know. But like at the time, we'd put a deal in front of people and it'd be like, well, it's 30 grand. For 30 grand, we should probably have a new roof on it. Or for 30 grand, I don't know if I'm willing to like do some new plumbing work or whatever. And people would pass or balk at deals. And now they're looking back. And I just spoke to Mohamed Salada, who's a great client of ours. I saw him the other day at a comedy show. Who was that? John Mulaney or something. It was a great comedy show. I saw him at the casino, and he was like, God, I kick myself for all the deals that we passed up that we should have just bought, because now they're worth 80, 90 or whatever it is. It's absolutely insane. But back to the question, tell us a little bit about the myriad things you've done over the last couple of years.
Well, yeah, obviously I started wholesaling in 2017. I worked for another wholesaler. I worked for him about a year and then decided to go on my own. And started a new company with some great friends of mine. 4 of us, we started Case Capital. We did that. We had Case Capital for about 2 years. And then I moved on to flipping houses, owner finance. And then through the help of you guys, we met a client. And during this crazy market we've had the last couple of years, started a renovation company and started remodeling houses for people that have rentals and stuff like that. So
yeah, I think that's an institutional client. They buy 10 or 15 properties a month. Those guys have really jumped in a big way. Not just them, but other institutional clients that are gobbling up real estate in Tulsa and Oklahoma City and in a bunch of Midwestern markets, and that certainly has created good things for investors that already own property, but make it much more difficult. It makes it much more difficult generally to get in when the competition, is increasing and, pushes prices up a little bit or whatever. So that's been an interesting innovation in our market. And that's SFR3, the guys that were, formerly Uber that raised $100 million or something. That's epic. And then there's lots of folks like TB Realty and Chris Crone that are kind of constantly on the hunt. When you were doing the wholesaling for somebody else, and then you jumped out and did it on your own, I mean, what spawned that dream or desire to be an entrepreneur directly instead of working for somebody else?
Well, I mean, to be honest, the reason I got into the wholesaling business is I realized I was not meant to work for someone else. I was meant to be on my own and do my own thing. So when I jumped and I had the opportunity to go learn about wholesaling and real estate, it was great, but I was still working for someone. And so I had a different vision than he did, the owner of that company. And it just made sense to part ways, and I could start my own company, which I learned when you start over. Any wholesaler starting, they have no capital. You're just trying to find deals, lock them up, find investors. Well, I didn't want to be just an average wholesaler. I did really well with him, but it takes marketing costs and a lot of money to get where you want to go in wholesaling if you're going to do it big time. Now, one or few deals here and there, you don't need much. But so partnering with the other guys was great because we were all had the same vision of where we wanted to go with the business. And I became an owner, instead of just being an employee. So that's the main reason and why I went with that direction.
So staying on the wholesale market for just a second, so many people get into wholesaling properties because it's a natural entry point for folks that want to hustle, but they don't have the cash to buy necessarily. So they use the contract flipping as a way to build some capital so that they can do buy and hold stuff. What separated you when you were working originally, and then when you had your own firm? What separated you from other wholesalers in that regard, or in terms of how you were finding deals, how you were locking them up?
Well, as you know, we've heard in any investor buying it or selling a property, most wholesalers they're not upfront about what they're doing. So, and that's what gave us, Oklahoma a lot of areas, wholesalers a bad name is because they're saying, hey, I'm buying this contract, I'm buying this house. And we need to be honest, I couldn't do that. So I was very honest about saying, hey, whether I was going to buy it, partner with another investor, or the investor was going to pay me a finder's fee for that property. So that was the difference to me. I was very honest. And when we had case, that was very important that we had ethics. We were very ethical and we were very upfront about what we were doing. And so I think that's what separated us. We got more clients because we were helping them instead of just trying to spend it, flip a dollar. Being the middleman, you have to work for both sides. So you have to create a relationship. And I think if you try to help someone find a solution for their need, even if it's not you, you're going to win 9 out of 10 times. So that was my motto in my head. The way what we were going to stand for.
I loved working with Case Capital and with you at Case Capital specifically. I didn't work with the other guys generally. I'm sure they were involved in the periphery, but our owners could always stomach a $5,000 or $10,000, wholesale fee because the underlying asset made sense with that additional expense. And when you told them, hey, this is what's going on, they may balk at it a little bit. You say, look, here's the deal. I mean, they could go to somebody else, or the deal makes sense for you either way. Yeah. But when you have that transparency and you just tell them about that, it's so much easier to get a deal done. And, after Case shut down, I know some of our clients were buying things and the market got crazy during COVID, but ultimately we'd put something under contract and say, I think it's a little bit high, or our clients ultimately knew Case and the other guys running it and other wholesalers around town, and they would do their own deals and they'd bring them to us and we'd say, well, I think it's a little bit higher, or whatever else. And we'd find out that there'd be $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 of commission of wholesale fees on some of these that were not disclosed at first. And it made our investors feel, I don't know if it's kind of foolish or taken advantage of or whatever. Ultimately, if you do deals like that, you can't do it more than once, right? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And so I loved working with Case because we could just do so many deals together, and our clients were constantly buying properties because they knew what the fees involved were.
Yeah. And I think, again, if you're honest about it, like even if it's 20 or 30, the deal has to make sense. And a lot of wholesalers they're fighting to keep that big fee on there instead of just making it make sense. I mean, again, everybody has their own way of running numbers, but we came up with a system that met everybody in the middle. And then we respected the input. When you come back, you used to give us feedback all the time. This is why we got to be at this number. And then we went and adjusted our fee to make it work. And like I said, so yeah, but when you're pushing it out and you just keep pushing that high number, and you're trying to make a bank off of one deal instead of 5-10 deals. Yeah, you're going to lose. And they're not going to, because like I said, I have investors that I've done $30,000 assignment fees for, but they made money and they'll come out and say that they made money. And so it was a win. Now it's a good job on getting that high fee, and they'll keep buying from me because again, it made sense.
Yeah. You know? There were times when, we'd see the lists come out for houses and it'd be, I don't know, a house for $100,000. And you'd go back to you just respond to the email. I've never had a relationship with a wholesaler like I had with you, where we were texting and talking back and forth all the time. And I could say, hey, this is too high. This is why, whatever. And when we could adjust things, but an email comes out, I respond and go, this is like just insanity. And it needs to be at 60 to make it make sense. And they'd say, thanks, but we don't really need your feedback. And then ultimately you'd see it 2 weeks later, price drop. And it'd come down to 80.
Yeah.
Price drop down to 60. And at that point, your feeling as a buyer is like you were trying to do something crazy and trying to pull the wool over my eyes. And now I don't really want to buy from you in the first place. So I do remember those days also where we don't really buy that much stuff from wholesalers anymore. I wish we still could, but we haven't seen any reasonable deals in so long. And that has been a function of the market. But where do you think the market's going in 2023?
For me, I'm preparing to buy. So that's the great part about where I'm at today from where I was then. Then I was just wholesaling full time. Now I'm, buying and flipping and doing owner finance. So I'm getting ready to buy. I think, interest rates are high, but it's going to come down. Everything's going to come back down. I think in my opinion, I think the value of a house after repair is still going to stay up there. Maybe not as wild as it got this last 6 months. Yeah. But I think it's going to stay high. I think what we're going to start looking at is what the value of a current house in its current condition is. And so I think that's going to, and because the interest rates are going up, they're up right now, that's going to give us opportunity to start getting real with these people because, everybody went up. I've leads I'd have that want $20,000, $30,000 off over what it's worth, even in good condition, So yeah. I think, so for me, I'm getting ready to buy as much as I can to hold on to until rates get back down to a really good rate and either sell them or, owner finance them.
And so what's going on? People that are, do you expect when you reopen all the marketing channels and turn on the taps, people that are on variable rate mortgages for their primary residence or investment properties are just going to get squeezed and they're going to be forced to sell ultimately? Or what do you think is going to happen?
It could. Again, that side is different than what I look at. I look at for me as an investor side of commercial loans. Yeah. But I think they will. I think, I think people need to be careful, especially new investors, of what you're getting into. Private lending, hard money, those things. I was looking the other day and there's a company that here locally that's charging 13%, 14%. And that there's points behind that. There's a lot of things that in the red fine line you have to look at. So I think just being careful, like don't be so caught up in the idea of getting to that new $1 million status. I think I saw a guy on Facebook the other day and he said, I'm under 25 and I'm a millionaire. And then when I did more research into who he was, he owns a lot of properties, but with property comes debt. So I think that's not, to me, that's not a millionaire. That's just having debt and some value, you know what I mean? So I think just be careful, if you're getting started. As far as everything else, I think, again, time will tell, but you have to stay moving forward. As far as my flips, I'm more conservative what I spend. I think that's what I'm doing. And I'm just going, I think the new 250 range is going to be in under 200 now. People are going to stay under 200, 150. So for me, I'm going to stay in that range too, because it's, even at higher interest rate, you're still getting a good deal and you're not paying in the back end. So,
can you explain how hard money lending works and what you think an appropriate rate for hard money is and how you navigate that between private capital and traditional bank finance and hard money? Honestly, it's a great question, but I couldn't because I've never used hard money. I've never used that kind. When I heard about the interest rates, I was like, no, I'm not that desperate. I guess not probably the best word, but I'm not desperate enough that I need that house that bad. I'll move on. I have other avenues of income with construction companies. So I didn't buy very much the last 2 years. I think I bought four properties where people were buying 6 or 7 or 8, maybe more. I only bought 3. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4 properties. Sorry. And I have 3 under contract now, but you just have to pay attention to what you're looking for. Private money, if you can go, that's where I'm getting to this year. I've always used traditional commercial banks, local banks here in Tulsa and Oklahoma. I think that's a great way to get started because they can work with you. It's going to be a little tougher now because as the rates go up, their process to qualify you is going to be hard. And so they're going to get more tighter on things, credit, cash flow, things like that. But and the same applies to the private lenders and hard money, from my understanding. They just have higher interest rates, a lot higher interest rates because
it's their money, instead of a traditional bank. I hope that answers your question.
Tell me a little bit. So what you're seeing right now from traditional banks is that their lending requirements are getting tighter. You need higher credits for them to lend to you. You need a higher debt service coverage ratio, or what are you seeing in terms of?
You need to have low debt ratio. You need to have cash. Down payments are going to be higher. I was getting anywhere from 10 to 15%, and then talking to some of my bankers, we're going to be at 20% downs and like that. So you just need to be prepared for that. You got to think about, you got to have money in the front and you have money in the back end, because typical banks only give you enough money to repair on the rehab part, 85%. So you need to make sure you're covered on both ends.
I mean, there were some times where lending standards are pretty loose over the last couple of years, maybe not during COVID, right before COVID, where banks would finance 100% of the renovation and 90% of the upfront costs. So you could be in these deals for 8 or 9% of the total construction costs and acquisition costs. I guess those days are past. They're not really the banks are theoretically worried about prices coming down, and they don't want to be caught naked when the tide rolls out, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So, I enjoyed it. I missed those. I had a couple where you could do 100% financing, 90%. Crazy. Those were great. Those made deals easier to move on. Yep. But you just have to be smarter.
Those times were also predicated on us being able to find good deals. I mean, they were never doing them for bad deals. So it was just that the deal made sense. The deal was such that the acquisition cost was so low, somebody was trying to get out of it. And then, you saw, or I saw the benefit of doing a nice renovation on a turning neighborhood or something like that, where the appraisal came back favorable. The cost of the renovation was reasonable. And the acquisition cost was reasonable. So all in all, the bank still felt secured with their collateral when the project was done. And it really helps. A couple of things that really help. One, having a property management company helps. Two, having a construction team that the bank knows and trusts can actually get, hit their numbers, hit their timelines, and, will actually finish the project. Because there are construction teams out there that will take some sort of down payment and then run away. And your project's now, where? Stopped, stuck in the middle, whatever else. So I think, the lenders that are still doing conventional stuff. And I think you'll still be able to do construction financing, right? That's not going to go away. Yeah. It's just that some of the equity contribution will need to be higher, but they're going to have much more confidence if they're going to the risk committee and they're presenting the deal and saying, well, Keyrenter's managing the property, Kyle Law's managing the renovation, whatever it is. And they recognize those names. They're people that have been here for a long time. They're people that have solid reputations. They're going to be much more amenable to getting that deal done. I wanted to ask you, about the construction side. Like, what are you doing on the construction side, and how are you keeping costs at a reasonable level? We've just seen, OSB for roof decking up at $80 a sheet. It's come down, but it's still fluctuating in a pretty significant way. Inflation has just been killing everybody on the construction renovation side. What are you doing to keep prices down for renovations?
The biggest thing is time management with the team. What's helped me get better in my business investing in that is having that. And yes, I owe it to you guys at Keyrenters, because you guys set me up with my first client when things were slow for us. And I appreciate that. We just learned how to manage costs through them, and just, staying, when you do a bid, just making sure you're rechecking pricing. I have a program. It's nice. I have an app that looks at pricing, average pricing costs in our area. So I use it just for that part. But I always double check, because we, especially in renovation rentals, we use a lot of the same material. So it's gone up, flooring has gone up, plumbing materials, HVAC, everything has gone through the roof. And so I think you just have to be, one, watch your time management with your crews. My guys have a weekly task that we're planning to get done. We have time set, everything's set to get done at a certain time. So we keep on budget, and they understand that they can win. My team gets bonuses, if we stay on budget, so we can pay them properly, I think that's a big thing. And then having good contractors, you got to have that, and make sure they know they've got experience, knows what's going on with the market, because last thing you want is a bill at the end of a contract saying, oh, materials cost more. You got $1,200 increase, which I've had happen to me. And I was like, whoa, that's not, and as a client, you're like, nope, you're not doing that to me. Yeah. So you got to pay attention.
How does the app work that you are able to compare prices?
So it's basically just runs through all your major companies, for like Home Depot, Lowe's, locks. It runs through.
So you put in there and you say, like, I need 12 feet of PVC to whatever, and 3-inch PVC, and it kind of checks.
I wish it was that easy. It's more technical than that. So you have to create a job. So I basically, in this app, you create a job, and there's tons of them like it. So this is probably not the best one, but it's worked for me. But you basically create a job.
What's that one called?
Oh man, you get I'll have to look at my computer. So I
Okay.
need you to put me in the spot.
Yeah.
I was actually trying to do it. That's why my hands are moving. But it does. You create the job. If you're doing a remodel in the bathroom, you basically create the job, and then it gives you an estimated material cost, and
Got
then
it.
you can also put some margins. Like anytime you're in material estimating materials, 10%, 20% on high end stuff, things like that. So it does it, and then I just double check it. I mean, for a while you're gonna have to, until you get used to this and set. You should have your own system and own of everything, but I basically just double check everything through just searching, general cost of materials we're going to use, especially the major stuff. Your small stuff, you're usually fine in your margins, but the bigger stuff, like wood, especially wood, that's the big thing. Flooring, that's the big thing that's jumped up. I mean, crazy amount since we've started, the last year.
Yeah. I mean, is there anything really to do to hedge against price increases? I think you could theoretically buy a ton if you're doing a ton of renovations and inventory it. But again, like if you inventoried at 65 with OSB and now it's down at 40, you're looking a little bit foolish. I just don't, we haven't had we do a ton of renovation work also. And I just have not had a good answer for clients that want to hedge costs. If you buy a full container, a full truck container of lumber, it's like, well, I don't know, things get stolen. People, walk off with materials, not because they're intending to steal sometimes, but because they misplace things, right? They take, two 2x4s thinking that they're going to use them at some job. They don't, I don't know. It's just, it's tough.
It is hard. It's very hard. But I think the biggest thing is, I've been blessed that the client I have, they use the same thing every time. So that helps. And then we're always shopping for something similar just in case. That helps. And then, going back to, I don't buy a bunch. We'll buy a few things ahead of time, but more of our materials like screws, nails, tape, things like that we'll know we'll use no matter what job.
Yeah.
And then, just working closely with your client to make sure they understand where it's at. Just beyond, it's just no way. There's no way to do it. I've gave a bid and a week later we've had 2x4s go from $4 and then to $7, $8. And I'm like, whoa. And you just have to, as me, I eat that. Like, you have to have, some room to protect yourself in your bid. But at the end of the day, the right thing to do is just get it done with your client, go into the next one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you got to take losses sometimes as part of the growth.
Have you learned through doing a ton of renovation that Home Depot is good for some stuff, that Dawson Lumber is good for some stuff, and that Lowe's is good for some stuff? So what do you find? What's the difference between some of those stores?
Well, so Lowe's is great. Lowe's is my general one I use. Those are my favorite. We get to use them because we get other discounts for being military, me and my partner. And so there's things we get to use them. Home Depot, Lowe's is the hard part is finding the volume we need and flooring, things like that. Home Depot is pretty good, but again, we don't get as much discounts. You just have to know like what you're getting and then price around. Take your time to price around, build a relationship with those because they'll help you out when they have good deals. Dawson's we use, Days we use. I think and that's how you go back to keeping costs down. Just like, especially if you're flipping. If you're flipping, you got to be okay. Listen, you don't need to put a $10,000 bathroom, a shower tile and go crazy like I did in my last house. You have to just be moderate and conservative what you do and do a good, clean look. Put your own, stamp on what you do, but be conservative. You don't have to go high end every single thing, That's the thing. You don't have to put granite every time. Like I'm putting butcher block in my house. Like is that
cheaper? Is that much cheaper than granite?
Material, not, but the labor it is, so the labor for me, I'm saving labor and I like the look of it, but that's the main preference. But just knowing that, and then putting the high end, doors are another thing. You can watch a door go from $99 to $200 so quick just for the look of it. And everybody, wants the fancy look. You don't have to do that in every house. So things like that. What's some other things? A backsplash, things like that. You can do you don't have to do the fanciest thing out there. You can, again, I love picking tile and backsplash. My favorite thing to pick because there's so much variety. Florida core is like heaven it's like Christmas. I have to watch myself when I go there.
But ultimately, if the market's not there, you really have to be careful in terms of doors and backsplash and things that you're putting in. You got to make sure that your style is right. But the person that's going to come and buy the house when it's done, also might be way happier with a lower quality backsplash or lower quality doors and a lower price point. Your margin is secure in there vis-a-vis For example, doing
Exactly.
higher doors and higher quality backsplash or granite or whatever. And now you add in, the same 10% margin or 15%, whatever number needs to make sense for the flip. And they're all of a sudden paying $20,000 or $30,000 more. They're not happier either.
No, and then flooring's another thing too. Like, I wasn't very, I didn't really like LVP at first. I thought it was cheap, but it's not. Like, you can get really good LVP and it's going to last longer. It's more water resistant. I mean, wood floors, and as if you have them in rentals, they get wore down and they got to be finished. It takes time. It's a lot of cost there. Because I would love to have a wood floor over anything, but one of my last flips, two of my flips, we put LVP in because it just made more sense. It looked really good. It was good, quality, and it looks a lot better. And it's going to last for someone having a family in that house, or if they have pets. And
are you doing the click lock with the white filament underlimit?
Yes. And then in my house I'm flipping now, I'm doing engineered wood, and which you can't tell the difference. And compared to wood floors, it's a lot cheaper. It's cheaper, but it just looks so good and clean. Labor we were able to cut down because of timing to put it together and staining.
So you've got such a wealth of expertise and knowledge and experience. What are you doing in terms of mentoring new guys in the construction world, folks that want to get into flipping? What are you working on?
Well, I mean, as you know me very well, I'm open book. I just share knowledge because someone taught me. I have mentors. I have several people and mentors can be just people in the business that you listen to their advice and take it down and take it seriously. But having a mentor would be the key. And for me, I want to get into that because there's people starting out that are getting either taken advantage of or they don't know. And I've lost so much. Again, losing is part of the process of learning, but if we can help them, great. So I know in the future, I want to get into that more full time, mentoring as a business and helping people. Right now, I just, with my wholesale company that we just started back up, that's how I'm mentoring. I'm making a part of the team let's go make money together and wholesale, also find me deals and you guys deals, helping them grow that way. And, that's the way to do it. I mean, you shouldn't be so hard to hold on to what you know. You got to share that. Right. I mean, I always try to help a wholesaler because, Tulsa is a tightening market. Like people, what's your name's out there? It's either good or bad. It's out there. And so, and the more we can make people understand what wholesaling is, the better it is for sellers, buyers, and everybody. So,
I mean, I think some of the biggest lessons that are learned in construction in real estate are on the construction side. And finding a good crew is so, so important, whether that's through Keyrenter, whether that's through Kyle Law, any other construction crew. I mean, I learned early on, the manipulation tactics are great. I mean, I remember a story I was trying to put together, I don't know, maybe a $20,000 renovation. It was, should have been 10 weeks. I was paying $1,500 a week. The contractor came the first week, did a week's worth of work. I paid him $1,500. Second week, Tuesday comes along and he's like, "Hey, can I get an advance on this week? I've got to pay my mortgage or my truck bill or this." And you're thinking, well, if you don't have a place to live, that's pretty tough. You won't be able to come back to work. If you can't pay your truck bill, you're not going to be able to get supplies to and from the thing. So you give him $1,500 on Tuesday. Then he doesn't show up Wednesday or Thursday, comes back Friday. Okay, so I'm in it. I'm, a couple $100 into him. The next week he doesn't come back Monday, Tuesday, but he works Wednesday. And, you're in a situation where if you don't pay him, you've lost $500 or $600. If you can kind of limp him along and get what you need, so you get down this rabbit hole and all of a sudden you're $2,000 or $3,000 into it and you keep going because acknowledging that you've lost $2,000 is so much harder than, kind of limping it along and paying a couple $100, here and there, $1,000 here and there to get the job done finally. So I do, I've felt that pain on multiple points. I've sued contractors, that we worked with for, overcharging us or whatever, and we've won. It's hard to then collect assets. So my point, I guess, is, as Keyrenter, when we use vendors all the time, we eat bills, and we can afford to do that because we're a bigger company, relatively speaking. We're still we're a mom and pop operation, but still a little bit bigger. We're not, we're not going to go broke on paying out one contractor for a mistake that's made, but it's so important to use good quality vendors that and trust that will be honest with you. So I guess that's my main lesson is we've all been burnt. Try not to be burnt and use people that have a solid reputation.
Oh yeah. That's the reason I started having a company and hiring guys in-house is because I was burned after people I thought, that did quality work at one time, had the experience, and then life happens to them, you know what I mean? So I just couldn't take that risk anymore. Because when you cost you tens of thousands of dollars, that could be the difference of you making money or not on your flip or renovations,
Totally. I remember we used one guy one time, Brian Gillum, who we've used for 5 years, every single week for 5 years. has been such a blessing to Keyrenter for sure. And to me, he's done personal stuff at my house. But, he's come in, riding the white knight or whatever you call it, to save us a bunch of times. We had a guy working, he'd subbed out multiple parts and all this sort of stuff. And I just would go over there and there'd be no progress from the last week. And what's going on? And he'd say, no, we're working 24-hour shifts. So I've got my sheetrock guys from midnight to 8 a.m. and my framers. And I was like, Brian works 7:30 to 3 every day.
Yeah.
And every day there's progress. And when he says it's going to be done, it's done. Why are you working 24-hour shifts? That doesn't make any sense at all. And but I've got this new experimental way of doing stuff and blah. You know what? Yeah. You get out of here. Brian's going to finish this job up. Brian, I'm sorry I didn't use you on this job. Come over and help me out. And
I learned my lesson. So you get what you pay for. I mean, you want quality. You have to. I mean, I understand we got to save money where we can sometimes. And I'm not. And I always tell people I'm not always the cheapest. I'm not going to be the cheapest because I'm going to do it right and make sure that we don't leave you in a bad position. We don't leave it better than we found it.
Stand behind your work.
Because especially when you're taking on these renovations. We've done 15 for this company that, and I think we're at our 15th one, and you're getting houses that are already somewhat done, somewhat not. You don't know what you're getting into. And we inspect them beforehand. We inspect them afterwards. I mean, there's a lot to it. And we had just in this last job, we had change orders because of electrical and plumbing because it looked fine on the outside, but when you dive into it, you got water running here and you got electricals wired.
Yeah.
That didn't make sense. And you have to just be careful. And so having good, that's why my subs I make sure I use only the subs that I use for my houses because I want to make sure, they're getting the best deal possible, but things happen. I mean, no matter what, I wish they would go smooth, but they don't.
They never do. Yeah. It's not like building a new house where you can, order to the stud exactly the wood package you need. Yeah. I think that's a good point though. You pay for what you get. Your best guys are never going to be the cheapest, but the 2 points, I guess. Number one, the guys that are really doing it right have general liability insurance. They've got workers' comp for their guys. So they've got to build that stuff into their pricing. That's just a fact of the matter. And they've got to make a profit. You want people to make a profit, not because of anything but personal interest. If I'm paying you to do a job, I want you to be around in 2 years because I want to still use you. And if you're not making a profit, you're not going to be there. So I pay my plumber a fair rate so that he can make a living, earn a profit, keep doing what he's doing. Not because, I want him to be, rich, but rather because I want him to be in business when I need to call him again. And when I pick up the phone and call a plumber, I know that somebody's going to be able to go out and stop a leak that otherwise would cause $10,000 or $15,000 worth of damage.
Exactly.
So it's really a personal motivation that inspires me that causes me to pay somebody a livable wage and a profit.
I try to keep them busy. I mean, take care of your subcontractors, keep them busy, send them work, send them referrals, even if it has nothing to do with you. Like you said, send them to these people because it helps them, and then they're going to take care of you. They're going to be there for you. They're going to help you save. I love my contractor. Hey, I found a way to save you some money on this. Your client or use some money on this project because we can do this instead. That makes my day because they're looking out for me as much as I'm looking out for them to find them work. They're trying to take care of me to, not to overcharge or anything like that. When they could easily just charge me and I wouldn't know.
Yeah. Any last minute advice for anybody starting in the game, learning to buy and renovate and flip real estate?
That's a good one too. I think the best advice I can give anybody is that most people getting into real estate or getting into investing in this side of it, wholesaling, they're leaving something behind, like a job, a 9-to-5, a corporate job. Know that when you leave, this is one thing I left to have freedom, but freedom comes with work. So like I work probably 60, 70 hours a week, but I enjoy what I do every day. I enjoy getting
for yourself.
So it's different. It's not the same as grinding, like putting 40, 50 hours a week and going home and being miserable. That's the best advice is know that you're going to put the work in and, set goals, not only 5 years and 10 years out, but set, 3, 5, 6 month goals, but all equal to that same goal.
Yeah.
Always be having goals. If you don't have goals, if you don't have a plan where you're going, you're just going to be lost every time. And, and then hold yourself accountable like you would hold an employee. Set timelines, deadlines, have a list every day. Just be organized. That's something I did. I wasn't organized in this business when I first started. I would just go with the flow, hoping I would fill in. Now you got to be organized. I have lists every day when I'm accomplished. I have a calendar, everything. And then I meet with my team every week, multiple teams, got, the construction and the wholesaling. So
that's another good point that, quitting your day job to do real estate can be painful. If you have an income, real estate's a great way to build wealth. and to have ancillary passive income. But if you have a house where the hot water heater goes out and it costs you $1,200, $1,500, you don't have a source of income except those rentals, that can be painful. And then the decision between leaving your tenant without hot water in the middle of winter and, your vacation in Mexico over the winter can be a tough one to make. I think until you build up a real sizable portfolio where it's kicking off lots of cash, and that's different to each person depending on lifestyle. And between parentheses, you should also be cognizant of lifestyle creep and not spend more as you earn more. You should keep your day job, because makes those decisions a lot easier. Make the right decision is much easier when you have a day job. And a lot of people quit, I think, too early, and then it becomes really painful. Real estate's a really forgiving business. You can buy stuff not quite right, and over many, many years, it's going to be a great investment. You'll look back in the hindsight, and it'll look in the rearview mirror. In hindsight, it'll look cheap. But I think making sure that you've got some sort of primary source of income when you're buying real estate is a key component of it.
Well, yeah, and you gave me. It's funny you say that, because you gave me the best advice when I bought that triplex. You told me, you said at least a year. You said, don't touch that money. Put it back, Kyle. You told me to, if you can put longer, you can put it back, the better. Because when those unknowns hit, you're not like freaked out, like, how am I going to pay for this? And it showed that right there helped me, because I didn't touch that money, for that, I think it was 18 months. And then we had that really bad ice storm. And then it was like, whoa, I'm glad I did that. Because if I didn't, I would have been, my poor tenants, and I'd have been under, I'd have lost on that deal. And so you have to be prepared. And so put it away. Because it's easy to get caught up in the lifestyle. I enjoyed very many vacations and in the beginning, which I probably shouldn't have. I should have focused on putting that, reinvesting it into my business and that. But you learn and you move on, and you regrow and you rebuild, and that's what I'm doing. And it's definitely worth it. I learned my lessons now, that's for sure. I'm glad I've learned them now, finally, at my age. So
I love it. I don't remember sharing that experience with you, but I'm glad if it was helpful. I'm glad it was. Kyle Law is our guest today. He's a wealth of knowledge, as you can see. He's a wholesaler, investor, renovations expert, contractor, and he's open for mentoring, as you can hear. So if you have questions about Kyle, about what he's done, the failures that he's experienced, the setbacks, and also the growth that's come as a result of that, give him a shout. Kyle, how do people reach you?
I would say normally go to my All In Facebook page, but we got hacked. So, they took our whole page over. Took me and Lewis off of it, so we lost that. But find me on Facebook, Kyle Law is my last name, Law. They reach out to you. You have my contact information. I'm happy to help anybody and that wants to help. I don't know everything, but if I don't know, I'm going to find out. So
I love it. Kyle, thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate you.
No, always, brother.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Same Day Podcast. Tune in to a new show each week and be sure to subscribe to get future episodes.